Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. There we go. Now I can hear my own voice. There are empty seats at tables. Where there's an empty seat, could you please raise your hand so that some of our guests, that's all reserved. I think this is reserved. So no empty seats. Are these taken? One? One? If anybody wants a seat, there's a couple more seats up here. Otherwise, we're good for now. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Michael Crosby. I want to welcome you all to our celebration of life for Ricky Knoll. I'm going to start off with a moment of silence for him, and we will recite this serenity prayer together. God,
grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
so I look down and I see this. And I just love that face. So I'm glad you're all here. We are bursting out of the seams here. It's a good thing that you came. I'm glad you're here. We have people watching us, I believe, on YouTube and the Facebook page of the center. We do have a program. There's some changes and additions to it, but for the most part, we're going to follow it as best we can. We had a beautiful slideshow that was put together by Douglas before the ceremony, and we have about 5 eulogists who are going to come up and share. We're going to open the mic briefly for group share from the floor, and then we'll close with a couple more speakers. So without any further ado, right now I'm going to ask Ravi to come up and say a few words.
Welcome, everyone. We are here to celebrate the life of Richard Knoll, Ricky, Roche, Rochelle. All his many names. And as I was thinking of what to say and how to do this, you know what I obsessed about a lot? What am I going to wear? Ricky always told me I dressed too conservatively, and he wanted me to be more colorful, and he's here. I picked up a fan, and his name in our circle, I was Rose, he was Roche, Bernice was Barry. Picked up, and this was a rose. So in his honor, and I bought a couple of shirts and I tried them on. And I was asking Ricky, is this the right one? Is this the right one? And, you know, he had a way of flaring his nostrils and rolling his eyes. And when I put this on, he had a smile, you know, his smile. And then I thought, you know, what else can I do in his honor? My socks are all white or black or brown. I had one pair someone gave me, which was colorful. So, I come honoring Ricky like you all. Time to celebrate him together. Time to mourn together. More time to share some stories. I think it was in November when he had his 30th AA birthday celebration. What month was that? December. And he had not been well, but he started talking. I want to get this group of people together. And he says, there are so many different circles I'm part of, and you don't know them all. They don't know you all. So he invited 30 people to come, and all from different parts of his life. And today he's gathered us together. And who was not there at that time was his family, who are here today. Tom and Bonnie, who's watching, our prayers are with her as she recovers. His sister, Barb and Bo. He'll be and their two sons, Tim and David, joining us soon. His sister-in-law, Mary, who's watching, who couldn't fly. And the kids, Alex and Tasha. These are people Ricky talked about a lot. So glad he got a chance and he brought us together. And I was thinking of all the groups Ricky's connected with. And I felt honored because I knew pieces of many of them, not all. And growing up in Chicago, son of Herman and Marie, his dad was a Lutheran pastor. And there, Ricky was always Ricky. And amongst his family, at around 20, he met a circle of friends, some of whom are here. Barry, Michael, others who are watching. And they've been friends for all that time to do that. So all those people who are now elsewhere, but they've been remembering, thinking, joining us to do that. And sometime later, he moved to Los Angeles. And there he met Susie and Judy. They're right here. He lived with them on and off for so many years. And he called them his moms. And they considered him like a son to them. And they are here. And they are friends who are here, who knew Ricky through them. They are all here. And Ricky's journey, he found MCC in Chicago, Metropolitan Community Church, a affirming church open to LGBTQ people. And when he moved to LA, he was involved with MCC in the Valley at that time. And there are friends and people in MCC who know him, remember him, cherish him. And in his journey, he also started then moving towards the Church of Religious Science in North Hollywood first. And during that journey, there were others who are here who knew him, and are watching. And Ricky, he was very open about this, struggled with alcohol abuse, and he started going to AA then. So he started entering into the recovery community. And that became a mainstay for him. And I met him when he moved to LA, around 83 or 84, I think. And we just gravitated towards each other. We became friends, and there were several of us in a group together, some who've passed away, and I hope Ricky's meeting them now. And through my connection, my niece, who's here, was living with me as she went to college for a while, and she got to meet Ricky, and they became really close friends. And Ricky, through that, he went when Atul and Anuk married to India, he was there. He was there when Arav and Amara were born, and he's been part of their lives. So my chosen family and my biological family came together, and I'm so grateful that we had that. Then he moved here to Palm Springs and joined this church. He was a practitioner. And I thank you for your hospitality and opening this space. And he knew Beverly from those days and knew that this was part of his home. He actually also did the books for this church, for this. And then he became a part of the recovery community that has, and so many of you knew him from that. And you are here because he touched your life. He's touching our lives today. And thinking about this, what drew Ricky and me together? What was it? There were several things, and I'm going to talk a few. And nobody gave me a time limit, so. One thing, Ricky was always Ricky. Bold, loud, flamboyant, dressed in all kinds of ways. He was proud and didn't care what others thought. That kind of courage and boldness he carried with him wherever he went. And while I've been out and do that, he aspired, I thought maybe I could be a little like that. Didn't succeed. I also was thinking of what were the qualities. One Ricky and I shared, he was always hungry to connect to something bigger, something beyond. He had that seeker, and if you knew him, his practice every day, he'd get up early, have his coffee, be with Cleo first and then Gracie, his cat. And then he'd do his readings, some journaling, some prayers, some quiet time. He did that all through his life. When we went on vacations, he'd get up and he'd be doing that. I'm a night owl, and so we had to negotiate. Who's going to get up in the morning? You can't turn this light on, and if I'm reading at night, I have to. That we both had that hunger to connect to something bigger. But his key practice was the 12-step community. That going to meetings, being of service, sponsoring people, meeting with his sponsor, who's here, his current sponsor, or his last sponsor, they're here. And all of you whose lives he touched in that way. And I also said, what quality of Ricky did I, besides his flamboyance and his joy, his laugh, his laughter could fill the room. And he was the life of gatherings that way. He brought that energy with him. And to me, besides being who he was, wherever he was, my word is he had this presence that allowed us to connect to so many different people. And when looking for a word, he had this innocence that he looked at life wanting the best, hoping for the best to do that. He brought that with him. And that I learned so much from that because I tend to be a little more serious and more intense in some ways and passionate about things I'm passionate about. He taught me how to bring both those together, that calmness, that innocence, and not get cynical to do that. So he taught me a lot. Some things I did not learn, which he tried to teach me. if those of you who know him, he had this way in which he would do laundry. And, I asked him, and, so he wrote these instructions and led me through it. There were 2 pages. I gave up. I never learned how to do that. And during his illness, his last few months, George did his laundry. He'd go every week, he'd pick it up and do it and bring it back. And I asked him, is George doing a good job? And he said, absolutely perfect. So that's high praise for me to do that. Another thing I didn't learn from him when we traveled, and we went to many, many places together, twice to India, Hawaii, Puerto Vallarta. He would pack if you opened the suitcase, everything was folded, packed, compact. Mine was this absolute chaos and confusion. And we learned how to accept each other's styles. There was an acceptance that they didn't matter. Could I get some of the iced tea?
Yes, I gave you water. We got you.
Thank you. So just take a moment. What was that quality that you connected with Ricky? What was it that he brought to you that you remember, that you cherish, that you'll carry with you? Just take a moment. As our hearts beat together, those are the memories that bind us together. Those are the things that bring us here to remember him. Ricky, how am I doing? And it was not always this bed of roses for him in his life. He had his own struggles. And many of you in the rooms have heard those struggles. And I'd be lying if I said my heart is not breaking, that I miss being with him, that we won't have a vacation together. We won't have these calls where we could talk about everything. And we did. So Ricky had his own pain, his own struggles in him, with the world, with his health, with loneliness sometimes. And in the midst of that, he stayed in touch with his friends, with the program. He showed up. He revealed some things to some people, but he did keep. He was still taking care, whatever his mind, I can't. But he showed up. He never did not stay in touch. And if he isolated or I isolated, we'd call each other on it. But he did. He didn't give that up about being of service. And so I look at that and what is he saying to us today? We all have our heartbreak. We all have things in our lives we are struggling with and struggle with. And I'm learning from him that I need to stay in touch. I need you. We need each other in this. We cannot do this alone. And how in the midst of that do we show up for each other? These qualities that we so loved in Ricky, and his way of bringing both the challenges he had in his life, trying to deal with them the best he could, and showing up. What's that telling you and me? Again, take a moment. Let's keep sharing these stories. Let's keep in touch. But Ricky would always want to end on a high note. So if you're comfortable, get your fans out. Now, he gave me lessons on how to do it, and I'm not good. I'm not sure I will do it with the flair he had. There. Look, that's it. Hot. I'll have to take more lessons to do this. Ricky has the biggest fan, and he's doing that right now. Thank you.
By the end of this hour, I'm going to do that fan like nobody's business. Thank you, Ravi. That was beautiful. So much of Ricky's life you got to encapsulate for us. I want to welcome Ricky's brother up to this podium. Next is Tom Knoll.
Thanks, Ravi. But you took all my thunder, you know. You couldn't have said it better, so thank you. And that's really what I want to say today. I am so thankful that all of you are here. And not only me, but we've mentioned my wife a couple of times. She's in Chicago. She had some surgery, and the recovery is not going the way she'd like it to, so she was not able to travel. My sister is here, and her husband, and two of their children. Their third child, Christy, who loved Uncle Ricky dearly, lives with her family in Spain, and so, of course, is not able to be here. Our sister-in-law, Mary, was mentioned. Mary wanted very much to be here as well, but just was not able to do that. And each of them, we have dealt with some of the things in Ricky's house, and a lot of different things are going in different directions. Everybody wanted something that they could hold on to, that they could really remember him by. But again, my main thought today is to say thank you. To say thank you to all of you for being here. A special thank you to so many who made all of this possible. I know there was a lot of work involved in this, but it really wasn't work, was it, Ravi? It was all done out of love, and that's really what I want to thank you for. I want to thank you for being his friends, for being his family, for being so dear to him. We were always at a distance. We could talk for a long time on the phone, but it's not the same as being here. And so many of you were here for so many things and going through so much and so much love and so much joy that each of you brought into his life. I noticed in the bulletin or the program that it says eulogists, and I'm also a minister like our father was, and was a school teacher first. So that's always in my thought. But the word eulogy is a compound Greek word. It comes from two Greek words meaning good and logos, which is word, a good word. And I guess that's what we're supposed to do at a celebration of life, is to say a good word about the person who's deceased. And Ravi said, what is it? What word comes to your mind? And I thought that was perfect. What always has struck me, though, is that the Latin equivalent of eulogy is the word benediction. And we use that in English so completely differently than we use the word eulogy. A good word. Benediction really is what we think of as a good word from God. And the good word I think that God has for us today is that he has put other people in our lives that love us and care for us. No matter who we are or what we are, there are people that love us. And wow, do I see that here today. And I've been here for the last couple of days, and the love and the comfort and the peace that I have gotten from spending time with Susie and Judy and Ravi, Doug and George, Vaughn and Barry, so many of you, it helps me. It helps me to know what a life he had. And seeing all of you here today, it's just such a tribute. And I thank you, because it's really, really important for us all as his family to see this. So thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Tom. I do think of the word love when it comes to Rick Knoll, and I am filled with love from this room, and I think this is what he gave me, right, on an individual basis, was an incredible, intense amount of love. And to be up here tonight and see this come back, for all of us to be here, I think is pretty amazing stuff from him. Our next eulogist, now I'm not sure if I should have used that word. No, but I'm glad I did, because it's a great word for what we are doing. Speaking good words about Ricky, is our pastor, Reverend Robert from the center, who graciously opened up his doors to us today to do this. So thank you.
If I don't write it out, I'll be crying. So you just have to bear with me. Good afternoon. I am Reverend Robert, the assistant minister here at the Center for Spiritual Living, and welcome our leadership council and our senior minister, Reverend Eunice. Welcomes you to our spiritual center. And this was Ricky's spiritual center for many years. I've known Ricky for more than 20 years. He started out here with us many, many years ago, and he was here before I was here. He started in classes, and then when I came shortly after, I guess it was 2002 or so, we started taking classes together. And classes mean learning how all this stuff works. And we spent several years in classes. It takes 6 to 8 classes just to put yourself in a position to become a practitioner. And so what happened was, unbeknown to me that I wanted to be a practitioner, let alone a minister of God, I stuck with it, as did did Ricky. And so as we moved through that, we had a great time together, and we spent a lot of time together. Ricky served here not just as a member, but he was a practitioner, and he was our bookkeeper. He worked in this office over here for the longest time. And when Ricky took over this place, we were in the red. I mean, really in the red. And he brought us into the black. Now, if you've ever worked with Ricky on money, you know what it is. He would sit right over there at a table, and as we walked in for class, he would say, $20, $100. And even in practitioner, where we have practitioner dues, he would go, $10, next, $10. I mean, he kept track of that. And he wasn't timid whatsoever. I see you all have had that experience. As an accountant, he was really tops. And when he left us here, we were in the black, way in the black. So I have to give him so much credit for sticking with just that part of it, because he understood abundance. He understood how it worked. He learned how to live abundance in his life. And just all of you being here, you can see the abundance of love that had come forth from Ricky. I was one of the conservative ones. I came from a family that basically Ohio, New York, conservatives. And when I came out here, I didn't know what the hell was going on. This was California was different to me. I went to Ohio State, and I mean, Ohio State is pretty straight, let's face it. So when I came out here, I wasn't sure what I was doing half the time. And Ricky would take me, and he'd say, okay, you got to lighten up. Lighten up, Robert, what's wrong with you? And in the office over there, he had a big sign. I don't know how many of you have ever seen it, but he had a big sign that said, lighten up. And he carried that around half the time with me, because I was real hard at loosening up and being able to work with the group and intertwine with people. I came from a very humble family, and we always took a step back. Ricky wasn't anything like that. As you all know, he was out there. He was showy, and he told you, and that's the integrity of Ricky was one of the most important parts that I recognized with him. And so I just allow that just to be. We moved through those classes. We moved through our practitioner work, which is a 2-year work. In practitioner studies, the first year, you tear the out of yourself. You just tear it out, because the idea is to get down to finding out who you are spiritually. And if nothing else, Ricky was a spiritual person if you knew him, and it came from his heart. So I have to understand for that spiritual love is still existing. I truly believe that. And if you ever prayed with Ricky, he could pray your socks off. He could pray you up so much. And when we talk about praying up, it means seeing who you really are down here. He could tell you that. And you would walk away amazed. He could see what you couldn't see. It's one of the things I really admired in him. He was a bright light, and that light shows. Even in this room, you can see Ricky. I can hear Ricky. Can I ever hear him? He's there. We have pictures here, a couple slides that I'd like to share with you. One of the things that, do we have them? Okay. One of the things is 4 of us at practitioner graduation in Encinitas, and I think you can see it there. We had to give a presentation right up on this stage, and then we all got in a car and went down to Encinitas, which is the local district area, and there we had to graduate. And that's the 4 of us in graduation. And can you see Ricky there? Yeah. He made a fool of all of us. He had so much fun. And again, I was taking it seriously. Oh, this is cum laude and all that stuff. No, not Ricky. And we had so much fun on that. This is our practitioner group. And Reverend Beverly's right here, who presented us with our official recognition of being a practitioner. One of the best trips that I've ever taken with Ricky was to, God, Orlando, and guess what? Disney World. You know, that was his favorite place. That's the four of us that went together. And of course, the next one, I didn't like rides. You know what I did to my pants when I got out of there. It was great. We didn't get much to the convention that we were supposed to go to, but we sure did have fun. Probably the next slide was the best slide. Where is it? Oh, you didn't get the fifth one? This fifth slide is my favorite. It's Ricky and me with guess who? Mickey Mouse. So I'm sorry that didn't come up, but it's my favorite slide, and we got to meet Mickey and had pictures taken of him. You know, here at Science of Mind, it's our belief that the soul never dies. Yeah, the physical body disappears, but the soul never dies. The soul is everlasting. And if you're real quiet right now and you listen, you can hear the laughter of Ricky. You can see the loving smile in everyone you meet. His loving smile is right there. Ricky, you may be physically gone, but that gentle soul can forever be found. See you around, Ricky. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. One of the regrets I have is that I never got to go to Disneyland with him. But the next time I go, I'm going to certainly think of him. Our next speaker, eulogist, will be George.
Hi, everyone. My name is George. I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and hi. Hi. I'm nervous. When Ricky's passing was posted to his Facebook page, I started reading all the wonderful comments that followed, such as, he was a wonderful man, very sweet, so loving, kind, gentle, and the list went on. And I thought, what could I possibly say today that hasn't been said many times? And then I found one sentence in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous that described Ricky to a T and our friendship. It was written by someone with 15 years of sobriety, and I've known Ricky for about 15 years. And I'd like to read it to you. And as the years go by, working together, sharing our experiences with one another, and also sharing a mutual trust, understanding, and love, without strings, without obligation, we acquire relationships that are unique and priceless. Our relationship with Ricky was exactly that. 6 years ago, we started a tradition where Ricky would come up to Idlewild in July and spend a week with Douglas and I. It was understood that I would do the cooking, Ricky would always do the dishes, and Douglas provided unlimited entertainment. Ricky would arrive in his little toasted marshmallow car with his designer Ricky Nana license plates, loaded to the top with my favorite blend of coffee, Douglas's favorite soda, bread from Aspen Mills, and Todd's famous decadent desserts, along with puzzles, books, and of course his pillow with a Disney pillowcase. Our memories are rich and meaningful. Thank you, Ricky Nana, for our friendship. Douglas and I will carry you in our hearts until we meet again, my dear friend.
George. I know he loved that journey up to the cabin. And one more way that he got his heart filled was being with you guys. The three of you are amazing. I'm going to invite Mike P. This is his sponsor. Come on.
Well, oh my God. So, I was like looking around the room. My name is Mike. Hi, how you doing? And, I was looking around the room and I was just thinking, how beautiful this is. It's not just the flowers and the fans. It's not just the floral tablecloths and all that stuff. It's all the thought that went into every last piece of what is going on here today. There's little memories in all these little things that show us all the different ways Ricky touched our lives, and this is something that I think is important because in recovery, right, we show up for each other, we stand up for each other, we do these things, but all the little memories, all the little things, just sitting on that table in the back and all the people in front of us, it just shows the deep impact that we all have on each other's lives. And if it sounds like a meeting when I say it, but if you're new, look around, because this is important to see. This is what happens, when you follow a spiritual way of life, and you're a member of a community. You're in the center of the boat. And that's what Ricky was. Ricky was right in the center of the boat. And so it's important when you just look around, you feel the spirit that's here, and it's, I just feel it all the way through me. I met Ricky during the pandemic, so I haven't known Ricky nearly as long as all the people, most of the people that are sitting here. His sponsor had just passed, and he immediately, asked me to sponsor him. And I was floored, honestly. I just moved to Palm Springs. I hadn't met him in person. So I had never, we were from two different parts of the country. We had different programs, and it was nothing I expected. It was something that was totally out of the blue. And that's a lot of how Ricky has touched my life, is in these little, as we call them, God shots. There's things that you just don't expect that just happen. And it's funny that I say that at his eulogy, because he actually was like, whenever I'd bring up God shots, he'd be like, rah, 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 rah. He wasn't a big God shot person. And so, sorry, Ricky. But I met him, on Zoom, and we started working together. And the thing about working with Ricky is that he had this warm, familiar smile, which I think everybody can identify with here. And I felt, I was new to town, but I felt at home, in our first conversation. I felt like he knew me. I felt like I knew him. And yet we were very different people. and had very different experiences. So, you know, interesting part is that, you know, in these kind of God shots that happen, you know, I normally, you know, I'm not a big step person and whatever. I do work the steps and all that, but with Ricky, I, for some reason, did something I don't normally do, is I did the steps the way one of my sponsors had said to do it, which is very thoroughly. And I sat down with Ricky and we said, okay, we're gonna make a list of all these things, and regardless whether you're over them or not over them. And I had never done that before with people that I worked with. I had never gone that far back. I usually left it to them. And I got to know Ricky on this, you know, through the pandemic. We would sit every Sunday and we would talk. And I got to know so many people's names, and so many people. I heard his family's names. I heard about Ravi. I heard about just on and on and on, and all these stories that I'm forever grateful for. And so then when we had that dinner, which is where we all met together, I felt like I knew everybody at the table, and I knew stories about them. Ricky knew people. He got to know people. He didn't sit on the outside of life. And if there's one thing I would say to everybody is, you know, this is an example of what happens when you don't sit on the outside of life. And so you know, that dinner that happened, we didn't know that was the last time we were all going to get together. And it was odd because it was this 2 weeks where it was like he felt comfortable to come out, we felt comfortable to come out, and we all met at Gastropub and sat there. And it was just one of the nicest evenings. And it, to me, was like you know, it was the way it was like, it's hard to talk about because it was, you know, it was the last time we all saw him really all together. And it was wonderful. And that is how I like thinking of him, because he was so happy. And the months that followed were not good. But you know, I still, he just had this life about him that even through his illness and all through the pandemic, he just had this life, this lightness, and you know, he left me with a lot more than I feel like I left him. And I'm so grateful. You know, after every conversation, we would end by saying that we loved each other. And another thing I don't do a lot, and it was our last conversation that we had a few days before he passed. Neither of us knew that was going to happen. And we finished with, I love you, and I love you, and have a good week, and reach out if you need anything. And I'm so glad that that's the way we ended, that we got to say it, you know, say that we loved each other. And it was a practice. It was something we did every week. And that's something else to, you know, I take with me, is that it's the relationships we have are a practice. You know, it's something we do, and we don't forget doing certain things. And when Michael had asked me to stand up, I just thought, oh my gosh, he has friends for like 20 and 30 years that are going to be talking all about him. And I felt really intimidated. But you know, I'm just so glad I got a chance to stand up for him and say a few words about how he's impacted my life, and I will take that with me for the rest of my life. Thank you.
That's how the program works. Bob Riley passed away, and when he did, Ricky got on the phone and got him. Ricky was my sponsor. He passed away, and I got a new one right away. And that's how we do it. We have to. I'm going to bring up Anouk, who has been such a joy to get to know over the last few days. Thank you.
My name is Anuk, and I am Ravi's niece. Just so that to make this clear, in case anyone is wondering why Ricky was known as Ricky Nana, I'm still going to speak about him in the present tense because I'm still not. He's here. He's here. And Nana in the Indian culture is a term you use to refer to your maternal grandfather. So I was his daughter, and my kids called him Nana because he was, their maternal grandfather. Ravi is Cookie Nana. We call him Cookie as a term of endearment, and he's Cookie Nana. And of course, Ricky was Ricky Nana. So that, now that the mystery is solved, he loved it and he put it on his license plate. So just now that we've got that sorted out. I actually arrived here on February 9th of 1993, which was February 9th is his birthday. And I met him maybe less than a week later. He walked into Ravi's house with a box of desserts from Chez Nous. If anyone knows North Hollywood bakeries, Chez Nous is top notch. And that was it. We just bonded, desserts and we were it. That was it for us. Ever since that day until this past November, it was all about what dessert should I bring? Which one should I bring? Does that have chocolate? Okay, maybe I'll bring both. We're like, all right, sounds great. He's been a part of my life ever since February of 1993. He's been with us every step of the way. He was one of the first people to meet Atul, who, when we started dating, he was one of the first to identify alcoholism in our family. He was at our my baby shower for the kids. When Arav was born, I've got to have this a little bit, just so that I don't miss out anything. There's so much. I know I'm not going to get it all in, but he actually attended our wedding in India. He got into it, went out, bought Indian outfits. I wish I had shared the photos, but he's got Indian outfits. You see the photo of him wearing a turban with Ravi? Yeah, that's at our wedding. And turbans are worn only by immediate family. Oh yeah, it's like the groom's side wears one color, and it's like the groomsmen and the bridesmaids. So that's what it was. He was one of our family. He got to wear a turban, and from putting the henna to participating in the dance skits. The movements were not always easy for him, let's just be honest here, but he was able to pull it off. He was able to pull it off. My baby shower, he was there. When Arav was born, he came to see him 5 days right after Arav was born. By the way, Arav and Amara are the two small kids that you keep seeing in the photos, so they're right here, our kids. But when Arav was born, he looked at him and says, "Oh, when can I take him to Disneyland?" And I said, when he's 5 years old, I promise you. And we live really close to Disneyland. We're 20 minutes away from Disneyland. And until he turned 5, trust me, we had a lot of visitors with little kids saying, we're taking our kids, can we take them? Would you like to go? And we were like, we're holding out. Arav turned 5, we pulled him out of school. He went with Mark, right there, yeah, Mark and Ricky, took Arav and went to Disneyland, and he had the best time of his life. I wasn't there. And I was not there. There was one instance I have to share is when Atul and I had to attend a wedding, and Cookie Chacha and Ricky came over to babysit. I promise you it was 2 men and a baby, if you've ever watched that. It was Cookie Chacha trying to be like, okay, what, where? And Ricky goes, okay, show me, honey. And I'm like, all right, this is the diaper. And he's like, Big Bird goes over there. I'm like, yes, Big Bird goes right there. He's like, all right. And then we had the formula, and he's like, okay. And Cookie Chacha goes, right, yeah, okay, fine, we'll feed him. And he's like, okay, what, 2 ounces? Let me measure that. And he brings his glasses out and looks at it exactly. Oh, he had to be exact. The accountant that he was, numbers had to be exact. I used to always pull him in when I had to do some tallying for the volunteer work I would do. And he'd be like, 3 cents, here are the pennies. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. Oh, it does. It does. It was like everything was down to the T. Anyway, so after he took Arav to Disneyland, the babysitting went well. All of that went well. And then Amara was born. And as soon as he looked at her and he says, when can I take her to Disneyland? And I said, when she's 5. But before that, he said something else. He said, finally someone to give my Barbies to. And he was so happy. And we have two of the best Barbies that he ever had. He saved them for her, and we have two of them. So that was them. He showed up for every birthday. And when I say every birthday, I mean every single birthday that the kids had until the pandemic. One is in August, one is in September. He showed up for all of them, whether it was a princess party, which he loved, whether it was a bounce house party, which he watched, but he was there. He was there for every single one. There was one time, it was during a weekday, Atul couldn't make it, Cookie Chacha couldn't make it. We were taking 8 kids to Legoland. Ricky drove up from Palm Springs. He and I took 7 or 8 8-year-old boys, drove them to Disneyland. He has as much fun as they did, probably, maybe even more, and drove back. I mean, that's what it was. He was there for me every single time, every event. We have annual prayer and blessings for at our home every year since the kids have been born. That's about 17 years now. He's been there for every single one. Hasn't missed one. Thanksgiving. Every single year since we started hosting. The photos you see up here with him stuffing the turkey is at our house. Every year he's been there. He's not missed one. Maybe one when I was probably out of town, but I can say he's been there for almost 99.9% of them. It was just understood. That's his seat. He's at our table. He is family. There's Cookie Chacha and there's Ricky Nana, and that's it. That's just how it's going to be. And he related to everyone, whether it was having a conversation with my mom about Indian food, whether it was relating to the kids about current music, or whether it was painting with my 8-year-old niece over Thanksgiving last year. He just found a way to connect with everybody, like you've all said. My favorite memory of him is, I grew up in India, but we learned all the show tunes, all the Broadway tunes, all the Christmas carols. We just grew up learning all of them. Unfortunately, this bunch wasn't, that I live with. So he and I would sit and we would sing show tunes. And we would sing show tunes. And he had his perfect pitch, mine not even close, but it was fun just to watch the family squirm and be like, what is this? What is this? And he would go full out and just hit all the high notes, and I'd mess it up, but it was fun. What I'm going to remember most about him is his tight hugs. He really gave you a tight hug. And I missed that. I know I will miss that. No one hugged me as tight as he did. It took you in. His tight hugs, his, hi, honey, his sipping Indian tea with me at unearthly hours. He would love doing that. He'd come home any time of the day. It would be like, yes, I'll have some chai. I'll have some chai. I would love some chai. And his greeting cards, so timely. Not one time. In 30 years, I have never received a single greeting card from him that was late. It may be a day early or 2 days early or on the day of, but never a day late. And what I've learned from him is, if someone matters to you, you show up. It doesn't matter how big or small an event it is. There were times he showed up for every play, every dance recital, every performance you can imagine, every concert that we had. He would show up for that. And there were times I'd be like, oh, he or she is just somewhere at the back. You'd barely see them, no speaking part, just prancing around the stage. And he's like, that's okay. And he would show up. If nobody else was there, he was there with me in the audience. During the pandemic, he made sure I gave him the link to every streaming video, every streaming performance. He watched it, and then he'd text the kids and comment on that. So it didn't matter, and it doesn't matter how big or small an event is. If someone matters, you show up. And I know he's right here right now, watching this, and if he was right next to me, and I know I'd sit right next to him, and I'd be like, so what do you think? How's this going? And he'd be like, in his Ricky Nana style, oh, honey, it's just fabulous.
God, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. Glad you decided to come up here. I'm going to open the room for folks who want to come up and say a brief minute or two. I know we're running a little bit long, so I want to make sure that we can get this done and then finish the rest of the program. So if anybody wants to come up, you may.
I can't see. I'm Brian, and I'm an alcoholic. And just full disclosure, I will be mentioning Ricky's laughter a few times. This has been quite a lot more emotional than I thought it was going to be today, so you might have to bear with me a little bit. My first encounter with Ricky was approximately 12 years ago. I remember it distinctly. I was quite intrigued, to say the least. I couldn't stop watching him. Ricky was refilling his gigantic coffee mug, making his rounds, greeting people with hugs, smiles, and of course that boisterous laugh that will stick in my mind always. How could he be so happy, have so many friends, float around the room with such ease, and take time to welcome me with a fantastic hug and a smile, and carry that coffee filled to the rim without spilling a drop so early in the morning? Looking back, it all makes perfect sense. Ricky had a childlike demeanor of openness, humor, and love for all. He was also very adult when it came to life matters, recovery, and compassion for others. Eventually, I was drawn to him and needed to be part of his world. His personality was fun, loving, positive, accepting, and full of one-liners. My friendship with Ricky developed into a positive, trusting, loving relationship that I will never forget. Ricky was very good at taking my calls, and if he couldn't talk, he'd either let me know or text me that he would call me back. Ricky has always made me feel important enough to always call me back. Thank you, Ricky, for being there for me and being my Eskimo a couple years ago. Ricky was my friend and confidant. We also made a lot of memories together. When it came to musicals, old Hollywood movie stars, and Golden Girls, Ricky was the trivia queen. He was always quick to correct me if I misspoke a name, date, or title. He gave his snarky giggle and then made his point how wrong I was. Only Ricky could get away with that. He's also very competitive playing games and can be a very patient person unless you're in the car with him. It didn't take long to see his hilarious dark side on the road and brought out his competitive side while driving. I'd always say, "There she is," and he would burst his belly laughing at himself. Ricky introduced me to the strawberry sandwich donuts at Swiss Donuts. There's a theme here with sweets. Needless to say, it quickly became an addiction for us both. Sundays were our days to rise early so we could go get our fix before our meetings. And his love for Bridgerton, Downton Abbey, and British murder mysteries was always entertaining. We would call each other and discuss and compare notes of the episodes we had just finished, and he had lots to say for sure. Ricky was the perfect listener. He would let me go on and on and on and on about something, and when I was out of breath or finished my story, he would just look at me and say, "Well, tell me how you really feel, girl." And then he would laugh. His laughter would bring me back down to reality, and made me feel safe. Then he would say, "You're just too much for TV." I will cherish all of our special moments and our discussions of life, how we're coping, and all of our laughter. Ricky was a great teacher of life. Through him, I learned how to trust someone, accept others and myself, courage to keep moving forward, and being service to others. He once told me we're all human, we make mistakes, and that everyone just wants to be loved. How right he was, and he was loved by many. This is how Ricky lived, open-armed, accepting of others, loving, and most of all, he was very grateful. One of his favorite topics, gratitude. I am grateful to have received that much love. I am lucky and blessed to have known him. And his overwhelming light of kindness, love, and laughter. I can sum up my relationship with Ricky as a very long episode of the Golden Girls, and I am grateful. Ricky, I will try to always remember to count my blessings, not my problems. Thank you. I love and miss you. I hope you're still smiling and laughing. And I just want to end with a few lyrics from a song that is personal to Ricky and I and reminds me of him. Darker times will come and go. When a human strokes your skin, that is when you let them in. Let them in before they go. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Scott Collins. I have a little bit different relationship with Rick than the rest of you did. He worked for me for about 17 years. The word that comes to me is trust. I'm not going to get through this. I trusted Rick more than anyone I've ever trusted. I trusted him more than my family. He had every account, password, everything in my life. He had everything. He knew everything about me. He was always there. He just was always there. He called me diva, and I kept saying, "Dude, I'm your boss." and Rick would say, "Who cares, girl?" When I got sober 18 years ago, I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. And today, I have a little empire because of Rick Knoll. Rick Knoll made it. You all say how nice he was. He was so mean to me, and I'm going to miss it. He was so mean to me. No one's been as mean to me as Rick. He never forgot my birthday. He never forgot my sober birthday. He reminded me of my birthdays. I forgot. He cared more about my sobriety than maybe I did. I mean, he just was. It was the second day he worked for me. It's kind of a racy story. We became a very large company because of Rick Knoll. But in the beginning, he worked in my bedroom at my desk in my condominium. And it was the second day, And I'm in the other room, and I hear women screaming. I hear Rick screaming, and I run into the room, and Rick's going, "What am I looking at? What am I looking at?" Because he had pulled up the last website I had been looking at. And he said, "You are so weird. Where are your bank statements?" And that's how we started. For the last few weeks, I've walked in on Mondays with my receipts, and I keep forgetting. And I break down every week. Trust. I'll never trust anyone as much as Rick. Thank you. Hey everyone, I just wanted to share a couple of things. My name is Mark Kramer, and I have known Ricky for about 30 years. We met in LA. I lived in the infamous Moore Park apartments that we lived in together. And we went through the Northridge earthquake together. And I shared Ricky's collection, growing collection of all of his Barbie dolls. I was also one of his connections to Disneyland. I worked for Disney for 26 years and just retired actually a couple of years ago. So I would take Ricky to Disneyland every year for his birthday. And I was part of this when you turned 5. We all went to Disneyland. I took my nephew. Ricky took his nephew, and we had a great day. I moved here to Palm Springs about 4 years ago, and I actually live right around the corner from where Ricky had once lived. And prior to that, my unfortunately now ex-husband, but we're still very close, we got married and we had a Halloween costume wedding. And actually the picture that you see on the front, I don't know if that was taken at our wedding, but it was still the costume that Ricky wore to our wedding, and he married us. And so we were married by Pope Ricky. Anyway, that's all. I just, unfortunately, I didn't see him much in the last couple of years because of COVID. And but I just wanted to share my few thoughts with him. And he also helped me through a difficult time when I got addicted to drugs many years ago, and when we lived on Moore Park, and he kind of helped me through that as well. But I have many, many wonderful memories of him, and his laughter, oh my God, epic laughter. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you all, and fly high, Ricky, and see you later, doll.
Hi, everybody. My name's Jim, and I'm also an alcoholic, but that's, whatever. It's not a meeting, but, it's such a great pleasure, and it warms my heart to pull up to this facility today and see the parking lot overflowing, and this room overflowing with love. I met Rick Knoll when I first got sober the first time in the fall of 1994, and he was at my first AA meeting at Fountain in Fairfax. What a silly guy. I was thinking about when I was driving on the 210 freeway today from the West San Fernando Valley, Oy vey. I was in my 20-year-old car, which I'm grateful for. there's a time and a reason for everything in this life. And, you know, when I first got sober in '94 via the Venice House, and I stayed sober for a bit, Ricky and I worked next door to each other. He worked at Hollywood Sounds, and I worked at the company next door called Audio Rents. And I used to hear him laughing in that office, and then I'd hear him yelling at clients, "Where's our money?" You know, like just crazy, like, oh my God. You know? And then doing payroll, and oh boy, poor Ricky. And he worked for a crazy boss. That guy was nuts. But when he retired and he moved to the desert, it was like, wow, he's moving to the desert. I'm never gonna see him again. But we managed to stay in touch on and off through the years. And the last time I saw him was about 4 or 5 years ago, before COVID hit, and a couple years prior to that. And I didn't know why I was in Palm Springs. I don't know what I was doing out here, but I was doing something. And I was visiting an old friend of mine who I owed an amends to, which didn't go well. But that's another story. And I went to meet him for coffee at Starbucks in downtown. And he gave me the biggest hug, you know? And it was like, we talked for like 45 minutes. And, you know, somebody spoke about how he can get at what's going on with you. And like, he saw me, he saw the true me. And he's like, you know, you better hold on, because I don't think you're done. Because at the time I was relapsing. And I was like, I didn't want to hear that. I was like, oh, how dare you? But, you know, I have a lot of fun memories of Ricky. He was Johnny, who's here also today. And we were at our house on Kings Road, and I was dressed in a mermaid costume. Was it a birthday party? What was that? And I was dressed in a mermaid, and it was hot. It was like 100 degrees out, and John had this water spritzing on me, and I was in a mermaid costume. And Ricky pulls up and he goes, "Girl, what are you doing?" And I said, "Honey, it's a long story." You know, but, you know, one of the things I wanted to share too is I was listening to this song. I was listening to radio on the way out here, and I heard you two came on the radio. And it's that song, I still don't know what I'm looking for, or whatever that song is. And the lyrics are so poignant today. You know, he was a seeker. I'm a seeker. We're seekers. And it's like, we're not done until the next plane of existence happens. So God bless Ricky, you know. I love it that family's here, friends are here, Robbie's here. I haven't seen you forever. Long story short, I want to share one last thing. He loved Disney, and I had a little God shot happen to me yesterday. I put on the TV before I went to work at 5 in the morning, and on the loop of this commercial was into the woods, and I was like, oh my God, Ricky. And then his nickname for me, which I will always hold dear, and I think I was the only one, was Skinny Minnie. So I will always carry that for the rest of my life. Thank you for letting me share it. Thanks.
Ricky Noel would not call me Skinny Minnie. I'm going to encourage people to talk amongst yourselves and the tables and share stories about Ricky at the lunchtime. We have a couple more things that we want to do. I know going to have Arav come up and have a cello. He's going to play the cello for us. And please come. And then we're going to close it with one more thing with Ravi and then with me. Do you need help?
Oh, good, thank you.
So I know there's one great uncle in heaven who's smiling down on that young man today. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to close with Ravi to come back up, and then I'll end with a couple more things on my own. Come on.
Ricky would be so proud of you. Let's embarrass him. And I want to show you this. Amara put this tattoo of a rainbow heart on me today. Thank you. Just a few words before we close. his 30th birthday, he brought us together. He's brought us here together again. Those of you online, those who are not in this room. And we've shared our stories, our grief, our laughter. I want us to take this with us about, think of how he stayed in touch and how he connected. And think of those people in your life you want to be connected in that way with. Some of them may be here. Some may be elsewhere. But let's take that with us. That connection, that how we be in the boat together, as Mike said. And I want to read and I want to thank Karen, who was part of Ricky's mentor, and Elizabeth, who Ricky went through the spiritual formation program. And one of the books we use is Being There for Someone in Grief. I want to read you this small passage. It's a few lines. This is what Ricky did. There is a breathing into life that enhances the natural flow of things. In this softer place, you begin to play with all the aspects of this bizarre, unique, unpredictable, wild, sorrowful, and joyful thing we called life. Let's enter life like Ricky did and keep him with us alive and joyous in all times. And I want to thank all of you for your presence and what you did. One last thing, when we set this date, and there were a variety of reasons why it ended up on May 22nd, it's also the day, it's called Harvey Milk Day today. Harvey Milk was this openly gay politician who was the first elected in a major city. Ricky would be so proud to know that he's sharing that day. So it'll be Harvey Milk and Ricky Knoll Day.
Thank you very much, Robbie. I just want to say a couple of things myself, and then we'll close it, and then we're going to eat, because I know that food is smelling really good right now. I moved to Palm Springs in 2003, and what I'd learned for, 10 or 15, 20 years before was that when I moved to a new city, I go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I raise my hand, and I become a part of. And I did that at Sunny Dunes. And Ricky Knoll was at those meetings. And there was something about his voice that I connected with immediately. And every meeting after that, I connected with his voice. And it wasn't just what he was saying, it was how he was saying it. And that's what I think is what brings all of us together today, is how he said things. And I don't think I come close to having that gift. My life is infinitely better because he was in it, and he will continue to be on a different level. I became close with him. We became friends, and about 10 years ago, I needed to change sponsors, and so he was the logical choice for me. And we started to work together, and I have more time than he does, right, in sobriety, and it doesn't matter. It didn't matter. What matters is that he and I had a connection, and like Scott, I trusted him. I mean, we all could trust him. I mean, there's no question about how trustworthy that man was. The funny thing I thought towards the last couple of years, I would meet with him on a regular basis. We'd have coffee or on Zoom or wherever it was, even before the pandemic. And we'd sit and he would listen to me, and I would think to myself as I'm talking, I have got to be really boring. I really felt like I was just boring him to tears, right? But what he was doing was he would let me get it all out, and then he would come back with an amazing interpretation of what was going on in my life. Because he listened, he really listened to everything that came out of my mouth. And that's a gift, you know, that was a gift that he had. And again, I only hope that I can come close to achieving that kind of ability to listen the way he did. Ricky married my husband and I up at Ascena 5 or 6 years ago, I don't remember. And it was, give me a break. I remember, it was October 14th. No, it was October 10th. I don't pay attention to the details, but what he did for us, and he was in the white. He was in the white outfit, and the words that he shared with us, and the sense of spirituality and love that he brought to not just us, but to all the people. And there were, I think, close to 100 people at that wedding. So we were very honored, and very much like he looked like the Pope with his bald head. And, you know. My life, our life, has been enriched and is made better by Ricky Knoll. So I was honored to be a part of this. I jumped at this opportunity. I know a lot of people in this room feel a lot the same way that all of us have expressed ourselves today, and we will continue to express our love toward him in the coming days, months, and years, I'm sure. Ricky was also, I want to just say this, I'm going to plug in for Sunny Dunes. You know, he was a big supporter of our organization, and I went to him and asked him for his advice and thoughts about making the transition into a nonprofit. He had come off a very bad experience being on the board, or the steering committee at the time, and he was like, "You do what you think is best. But don't involve me." But in fact, he did get involved, and he was on our planning committee from the very beginning, and he was on the steering of the board of directors as a co-secretary, as a co-treasurer, who we really could have used in our organization. So he will be missed on that level. But I want to tell you, he supported us, and it was because of his love and a lot of others who've carried us through this process that we're able to do what we do at Sunny Dunes. So I'm putting a plug in for that. Okay, I want to thank Reverend Robert again for hosting us today. You know, we looked around at other venues, and they came to us and said, "Please, we'd love to be a part of this because of his history here." And we were like, "Oh, this is perfect." I want to thank Willie for doing an amazing job with the food, and his staff, who are just, you know, they're incredible back there doing what they do. George and Douglas, you know, to do what they did. George kept saying, Douglas kept saying, takes a village, and it really did. We got a lot of help to do what we did to put this together. There are probably other people I'm forgetting to thank, but I'm wanting to end. Back on the table as you go out on the left-hand side, there's a bunch of mementos and pictures, and we would love for you to take something home with you. So please help yourself with that so that you can have a piece of him when you leave here. We all have the fans and the programs and the little cards. There's been so much of Ricky here today. It's amazing.
There's some pink carnations.
Oh, and pink carnations on your way out. Thank you for that. We're having food. So will people come up, or are you? So,
Obviously, there's a lot of people here, so take your time, sit down, relax, just come up when you see the line. Let's not have a huge line.
yeah, it'll be easier if we just take.
We tried to guess how many people would show up, and we're way off. We have enough food, but obviously not enough tables
Yeah.
and chairs. So if you're leaving, if you wouldn't mind just leaving.
Oh. Wow. Okay. Is that what you say to all your fine guests at 849 and Gastropub? I know. We got it. Thank you very much. He's laughing at that one. I know it. Get out. I want to end with something very special. In 2018, in February, a group of us, including Ricky, flew to Hawaii to go to the Aloha Roundup, which Saul and I were in Hawaii when it first started back in '93. And it was a great weekend. To spend time with Ricky on that level was just awesome. And we had a really nice time. And what I want to show you is why I love this man so much was because he didn't care and he wanted to celebrate life. And he got up on the stage and he did this.